basically, it's not a part 3, but you can look at it as a part 3. This is a video on the market shift strategy that I've made, or not made. I have other videos that show the same thing. But this is basically my market shift strategy on Bitcoin, and I want to show you guys how I found this Bitcoin trade. And what I mean by this Bitcoin trade is the trade that I'm actually going to show you here in a couple of seconds here once I get the camera to stay still. And yeah, so I'm going to go on a smaller time frame to show you what I did, and I will show you also what I got pissed off about. So the first thing is what I got pissed off about. You can clearly see where I entered because you see my risk to reward boxes, right, which is here. The trades I took this morning were here when Bitcoin was at a low during its AM pumps, and I could have entered again and made all this because after I got out, Bitcoin continued to go up and made all this price action, and that's okay. It happens. The good thing was I still followed my risk to reward management. I wanted to make an extra trade, and I could have been profitable clearly, but it doesn't matter. I have to be robotic when I'm trading my strategy because I could have over leveraged on that trade and that could have went the reverse. Imagine that big up move going down. So the most important thing I think is to stay within your risk management, which is mine. If I trade crypto or Bitcoin specifically, I don't trade more than twice a day. 1 to 2 trades a day minimum. Maximum is the maximum, and that's it. I don't care what happens. I don't care if the market goes to $1 million. That's what I do. And tomorrow I can actually potentially get into this trade again and get into another setup. So let me show you what happened here. So the reason I got into this trade was because overall Bitcoin was bearish. I was expecting it to be bearish, but the problem was that before Bitcoin did this big move that it's doing right now, Bitcoin was at a low point. And when it was at a low point, I was expecting it to come into this 4-hour. The reason why all these zones are labeled is because that's how I label my zones for different time frames. So the 4-hour zone, which was my supply zone, or fair value gap, that was labeled, that was where I was targeting price action to come into return to before going down. And the same thing with this zone that it's in right now, this higher time frame zone that's popping into right now. This gap, this giant gap, this supply zone, so much supply and so much volume happening with Bitcoin, it didn't even have time to fill in price. Look, there's like a blank here because of how much volume it is. And yeah, so because of that, down here, I knew it was going to go back up and retrace. I decided to buy. But when did I buy? I didn't just randomly press buy just because it was at a low point. I waited for clear, obvious demand to be shown to me, and then I entered. So the clear, obvious demand that I entered off of was here. Pay attention to the blue arrow that I'm drawing right now. Not that one you're looking at, the one right here. So the big blue arrow, right? You see these little gray lines? Those gray lines represent where the market actually shifted, right? So the market right now was bearish, because if you look at the gray candles, you see the market price action highs, lows, lower highs, lower lows. And then all of a sudden, the market went from being low to slowly going up, coming down. And what did it do? Let's get more technical for you. Let's get even more. Let's go right into it. What did it do? It came down here, and then instead of continuing going downward, the market, I noticed, on the 30-minute time frame, it went straight up and took out these 2 highs. Now that's how I trade. So if I notice, I don't trade when there's just one high being taken out. If there's multiple highs being taken out, that represents a change of character in the market. The character of the market was bearish, and now the character is changing to bullish. Why? Because demand at that moment exceeded supply. If supply was so powerful in this trend, this wouldn't have happened. Demand at this exact moment exceeded supply, which is why price came up. And as a result of that, price came back down and tapped into this box, which I missed, which was my demand zone. I missed that. So I entered on another, here, I'll show you. I entered right here. So after it hit that box, I was like, oh shoot, I should have entered there. And then instead of entering there, I was already too late. I was already right here where this consolidation was, where the blue arrows are pointed to, right? And then I'll show you what happened. I noticed at that consolidation, I had another chance to enter because, wait a minute, I was like, you see that gray candle, that wick candle tapping into that 5-minute gap where it's labeled clearly, that you can clearly all see here labeled? That 5-minute gap was clearly tapped in by that rejection candle. And if you know how the smart money and institutions trade and smart money trades, fair value gap, supply and demand zones, there is very little drawdown when you trade that way. most of your entries look like this. They have a wick tapping into the entry and then reversing from that entry from demand, and that's what it was doing. It was tapping into this demand a little bit more before reversing and going up, and then when it went up, there was another expansion, right? And that expansion, I was like, okay, so what's the cause of that expansion? I noticed at the beginning of that second expansion, after we had price tap into that 5-minute gap right here, this was the expansion, and then after this expansion, price came down again into this. This was my entry, right, on the 1 minute. And I entered here, and then I had a second trade after, because when I was in profit up here, price I knew was going to come back down, and I took profit, and because I had 3 trades total, because I do one big trade and one duplicate trade, and I had one trade up here that took profit up here, and then it came back down, and I entered in again right here at that order block. You can look at that. If you don't know what an order block is, you can look at it as a demand zone. It's a type of demand zone. And I entered there, and then it went, and then my target was the actual, I'm going to show you my exact target. My exact target was the 4-hour gap right here. The 4 hours was 4-hour supply, which was right here. From that trade, I was targeting this gap right here with the bearish gap, this bearish supply right here. And I was right. It did. It went up. And yeah. And so that's pretty much what I did on Bitcoin. I have a free Discord group for crypto traders and crypto stuff. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. If you guys want to join, you can join. If you have any questions, if you also trade crypto or Bitcoin or interested in it, I do other things, of course. But just, yeah, let me know. Yeah, guys, I hope this video was helpful. I know it was short, but yeah, this is all I'm going to talk about for today. Peace.